Global economic headwinds, experts have been speaking on the need to create sustainable pathways for economic transformation that promote inclusion and empowerment of all. According to them, this is necessary as it translates to economic growth and sustainable living standards of the citizens. But what are the prospects and opportunities amid these domestic challenges and global factors? To discuss this, Mr. Kenneth Erikom is a partner with PwC Nigeria. He leads the tax reporting and strategy in West Market area. He has many years of industry experience providing tax compliance, tax advisory, audit and strategic tax consultancy services for clients in the African region. Thank you so much. He joins me via Zoom. It's good to see you, Mr. Erikom.
Hi, Tolu. Nice to speak with you again. Looking forward to our chat.
President Tinubu continues to woo investors to come into the country. But do you think Nigeria has all it takes at this time to attract the needed foreign investment?
Thanks, Tolu. Attracting foreign investment is quite crucial for us at this point in time for two reasons. One is to ensure that the economy expands and continues to grow. And the most important and urgent one is to ensure that there is consistent flow of FX into the domestic market. I still strongly believe in the Nigerian dream and the position of Nigeria as a strong market for investment. And some of the policy direction that the government has taken in recent times has reinforced some confidence in the market. But having said that, because some of the outcome we're seeing in the economic space portends and demonstrates that there's quite a bit of volatility, we may not be able to attract the investments as quickly as we would like. So it is important that government works in tandem, different ministries, departments, and agencies working with concerted effort to ensure that some of the major issues that we're facing as a country is significantly tackled. And one of the most important aspects of that is the FX matter. Because if you bring in your funds today, you want to be sure that in the near future, when you're taking out the returns on that investment, it's not completely eroded because the exchange rate has gone in a different direction. And unfortunately, it's I wouldn't call it a vicious cycle, but it's interconnected in such a way that when you attract the investment immediately, in the foreseeable future, you could stabilize things because you have a steady flow of FX. But the thing about foreign direct investment is that you cannot rely on it as the sole strategy for ensuring that you stabilize the currency. Because the thing about foreign direct investment is that in the medium term, it would sustain and provide that succor from an FX perspective. But when, that's why it's obviously patient capital. But in the future, when that investment matures and begins to generate profits, then there'll be demand from that foreign investor to say, okay, I want to repatriate dividends, I want to repatriate profits, I want to repatriate proceeds. And that's where we find ourselves at the moment, that we are unable to meet the demand, both for tangible imports and for payments of intangibles. That's a massive struggle for the central bank. So I think we need to look way beyond foreign direct investment and look at how we can activate the local industry and local capacity to ensure that we have businesses that work and ensures that we have that sustainable growth in the economy. So apart from foreign direct investment, I think we need to be very focused around what areas of foreign direct investments are we trying to attract. Because if we attract foreign direct investments that relies on just our significant market capacity, but to generate Naira proceeds to convert to FX and pay in the future, that's not going to work in the foreseeable future. We need a more sustainable approach where we're attracting foreign direct investment into areas that add value to the economy and also ensures that we have FX income. So foreign direct investments in the hydrocarbon space is very crucial because, in the hydrocarbon space, when you export the crude or you're exporting the gas, you're going to be earning FX. Even in the solid mineral space as well as in, agri-products that are exportable. So those should be our massive areas in terms of foreign direct investment. And then we also need to look at, spurring and encouraging more exports because that would improve the trade balance of the country, leading to increase in foreign currency flows, and that would enhance our FX reserves. And of course, it can also create that competitive environment for us as a country, which will boost productivity and attract more investors. So that cycle of exportation and generating that income, ensures that is sustainable. And then, the conversation around the 43 items that have been that were previously not available for FX. Now they've been brought into the space where you can actually access the official markets to get the funds to make the payment. But we also need to look at import substitution as a strategy for the Nigerian economy at this point. Because until we get to a point where our demand for FX is not exorbitant, and because where we are now is that we're largely import dependent, we will not be able to thrive, and would always have this gap. So we need to encourage local manufacturing of goods that we used to previously import. So we need to target them and sort of have a list or an inventory of those items that we want to have a concerted strategy for. Well, whether it be rice, whether it be furniture, we need to have that strategy. So for me, I think that it's achievable, but all of these things have to be there. Not just foreign direct investment, focus on exports, focus on import substitution, and ensure that we're able to mobilize even local capital, right, in the Nigerian economy, because that's where we will be able to make the most significant gains, in my view. The thing about mobilizing local capital is that you're not overly dependent on foreign capital or foreign investors. And that ensures that the growth is sustainable because these domestic investors, they understand the local market and the economic conditions. And of course, there's a bit of patriotism around their investments as well. And then you have more control over the investments, over the resources, and ensure that the profits that you generate from those activities actually continue to stay within the country, as against where the profits are repatriated to foreign investors. So we need to look at the balance between domestic and foreign direct investments and ensure that our domestic capital is mobilized and we enable the private sector to thrive. So things around dealing with multiplicity of taxes, dealing with regulatory approvals and the burden that many roadblocks and toll gates that regulators put in front of businesses are removed, ensuring that it's actually easy to pay taxes, it's actually easy to engage government, and government is acting as an enabler. Those are things that I think can make it work. And in the medium term, not immediately, we can begin to see those things that the presidency has been talking about around attracting foreign investment. But like I said, Tolu, stabilizing the currency will be very crucial in all of this conversation.
Great stuff and in-depth analysis into the topic of discourse. As usual, wasn't expecting anything less. But global issues from Russia to Ukraine crisis, now Israel and Hamas war, all of this is going to shape the investment drive across the board What are you thinking? Where are we going to get the dollars? We want the dollars in. With all of these challenges, how do we work it out?
Yes. So I think the world is becoming quite complicated to handle. The issue of conflict, as well as ensuring that we deal with issues around climate change, and fairness across global relationships. Those things are actually crucial, in terms of the global economy at the moment. And we've seen quite a bit around polarization, in the Russia-Ukraine war, and now we see things escalating also in Gaza, between Palestine, and Israel. I mean, what immediately happened when the attack, on Israel happened was that immediately the price of crude, as well as gas, by the way, surged, significantly by up to 4%. And that, you know, surge in the crude oil price and gas prices is not because Israel per se is a producer of crude in that massive way, or is a significant player in the hydrocarbon value chain. But it's because that conflict has the capacity to extend beyond that small area. And when you have a war that has some underlying relationship with religion, things can escalate very quickly. So that I think caused some of the volatility in the hydrocarbon industry, especially on how that would impact on places like Iran, right? Because Iran, at the moment, even though Iran is under sanctions by the US over the past couple of years, those sanctions were not enforced significantly on Iran. So Iran has been, pushing out, its crude. It's actually a very big producer of crude in that space. It's been pumping out crude, and also contributing to the crude market. Now, if things escalate to Iran, that could have an impact, especially as Saudi Arabia and Russia have been cutting down on production of crude by about 1.3 million barrels per day. And they intend to do that cut down, up to the end of the year and even extending into next year. So if all of that happens and things escalate, then you could have that problem. Now, that means that the price of crude is certainly going to be hanging at the top end for a while. For us, it's good and bad news as a country. So it's good news because it means that, with the MD CEO of the NNPC putting out the new figures that we've actually been able to increase to 1.6, 1.7 million barrels per day. It means that we would be able to significantly get benefits in terms of FX, right? But then we have the downstream problem on the other side, because we don't have any working refinery at the moment. So we largely rely on foreign refineries to import the molecules which we consume in terms of gasoline and gas oil. So for us, that's going to put pressure again in terms of the price of diesel, the price of petrol in the domestic market, and that would have a ripple effect on prices of goods and services, as we've seen in recent times with escalating inflation in our space. So for us, it's a good and bad thing. I think what we literally need to get right is this issue of refining the product. And in terms of position, man, I'm an advocate of, concessioning out or selling off our or the government refineries. I know there are arguments for and against, but there are ways you can do the structuring of that divestment in such a way that you hold some critical shares in that investment, so that you can continue to make decisions, even though you then sell off a significant part of the shares to other investors, who will then bring the necessary discipline to ensure that those refineries are working, and they are producing the necessary product. Of course, the Dangote refinery is another one that's important in terms of this conversation. So if that begins to work, then that could ease our pain from an economic perspective. So these are, I believe these are largely the impact. Of course, the issue of food security doesn't go away. When the Russia-Ukraine war started, we saw the impact on the production of grains. Recently, India also banned the exportation of certain forms of rice out of India. And countries are looking at how they ensure food security, by ensuring that domestic production and domestic consumption is sustained. And for us, we are very exposed to that, to that global dynamic, because we are largely dependent on all these countries I've highlighted for food. So an agri-focused policy, whether it be around rice and grains, needs to be top of the agenda of this government, to ensure that we incentivize the agri sector and ensure that it becomes more competitive with other markets. Otherwise, we'll be in this loop, where a certain amount of volatility in the global economy transcends to significant disruption and inflation, from our side, because we're largely consumers.
Oh, nicely. Time is fast spent. We still have some parts to delve in our discussion. Right? I think we need to have a part 2 of this. Mr. Kenneth Erikome, this is more time can take. Time is gone already.
Okay.
I must tell you, yes, in-depth analysis from you. We appreciate your contributions. Partner, PwC, Tax Reporting and Strategy. We appreciate your time. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, Tolu, for inviting me. Cheers.